I started implementing these tactics into my working routine. It 10x my productivity and finally made me finish my first game. Here they are. Point 1. Preparation for the session. The preparation for the session is just as important as the session itself. Now in this video I'm not going to give you the basic advice like good sleep, diet, movement, and having good energy levels. That's not what this section is about. I'm going to assume that you already have these things in place if you're watching a video like this. But I have 2 points that I'm going to put extra emphasis on, which might be the difference between a bad and a good session for you. So the first one, and also the most important one, is to eliminate external distractions. You need to work in a peaceful environment where no one can distract you. And that means, for example, having your phone on Do Not Disturb. And the best thing is even to just don't have your phone in your line of sight. For example, having it in your bed or in another room. That also means to not have anyone get in your room or your office when you're working. So for example, you can do it in a time where the house is quite quiet and no one is going to reach for you. Or you can also just tell the people in your households, I'm going to work now. Can you just please do not disturb me for 1.5 hours? And they hopefully will and definitely should respect that. Now the next thing about preparation is to be 100% clear in your mind what you're going to do for that session. So when you actually start a session, you know what you're going to do straight away. There's no thinking about what to do, like planning the session. Do that before you actually begin. And the best thing would actually do to do that in the end of the previous session, because that's when you left off and you know like how much work the system needs before it's done, like everything. Now, point 2, give yourself a deadline. So when I made my first game, Neon Surge, it was really hard to finish in the end, to make new features and to even just small tweaks and bug fixes was really hard for me. But what really saved me was setting deadlines for myself. Like even though I didn't need them, like there was no one else telling me that, oh, I had to finish by this and that, and like nothing happened if I didn't do them. But just setting them for myself and for my own confidence and self-image and identity really, really saved me. And I actually think that was the thing that made me finish Neon Surge. Because if I didn't have these deadlines, I'd just endlessly work on it was quite a big project, right? So I could just endlessly work on tweaking the UI or like optimizing this, optimizing that, like doing all these useless tasks, you know, without actually generating any visible progress for the game itself. So what I did was I set some deadline for myself. I did one big system every single day, and as well as I had like 2 or 3 bug fixes that were quite easy to fix, like that I would do at the end of my session. We can talk more about that later. So you should set a tight deadline that forces you to move forward and which doesn't give you any time to polish and do these useless tasks. It should be exactly the time that you need, and you're going to learn more about yourself as you set these deadlines. Just make sure you set them preferably too close than too far in the future, because if you set them far in the future, you don't really learn anything about yourself. Like you don't know if you could have done this thing faster, because when you have this deadline you think, oh well, I did it, there's nothing more I could do. But if you set that deadline like twice as quick, you would probably do the exactly same. You would just focus more, opposed to when you have a too tight deadline and you fail it. Then you learn like, oh, actually I think I needed like 20 minutes more and I would have done it. And the next time you do a similar task, you just add 20 minutes, and that's the fastest you could possibly do. And now you know that moving forward. And an awesome tip I can give you is to set a timer on your phone, just like if you're doing a game jam. Because when that timer suddenly is like 20 minutes again, and you just have a little bit more that you have to do, like you kind of begin to stress a little. And that's actually very awesome because that forces you to work and focus. Like, I'm actually going to get this. Like, I am going to finish this. And that's very, very good stress. And the reason why I talk about deadlines so much and having these tight deadlines is just so it doesn't allow you to do these useless tasks. When you are actually sitting down and you want to focus for 1.5 hours, for example, then we are going to do these hard tasks. Now, there is a thing I want you to kind of implant into your mind. That is that progress isn't doing more, it's getting the result. So you could work for, let's say, 10 hours, or you could work for 1 hour. If you get the same result, that's the same progress. So what we should do is we should try to optimize everything. We should get to that other side where we complete it in 1 hour instead of 10. And that's what these tips are for, especially the deadlines here. So if a task normally takes you, for example, 4 hours, try setting it for 1.5 hours. You need to find your personal limits here. Now, I talk a lot about deadlines and tips like this in my course. So if you're a solo part-time game developer and you want to become more productive, click the link in the description. Now, my third point is to work on something noticeable. So that basically means to don't start your sessions by doing something small, like small tweaks or just bug fixes. You need to do stuff that generates visible and measurable momentum. Or in other words, basically just add something to your game, which is significant. And in most cases, that would just be to add something, add a new system, just move the project forward. Like, take a big step into release. Don't do these small steps like tweaking and bug fixes when you are sitting down to focus. We'll come back to when to do that later, by the way. You need to cut everything that doesn't visibly move your project forward or excites you. Because if you do that, you're just going to spend 1.5 hours doing a lot of stuff, and you playtest the game before and you playtest the game after, and there's essentially no change. Opposed to if you actually use that 1.5 hours and you just did something, like no matter how many bugs or small tweaks you had to do, or like you had to do, just let's say you just implemented a significant system in your game. That would probably excite you much more. And your game would also look much more ready for release, which is our main goal here. It's to release a game. It's not to make the perfect or polished game, it's just to release a game. So don't care about polish. Maybe if you've released the game already, then you can maybe care about polish, but you don't learn much from polishing. Like, you don't learn much from polishing. Polish isn't what the people that are playing your game is going to remember. It's not something you are going to remember in terms of skill. Like, this small polishing task is going to learn you 10 times less than implementing like a big system. And I'm talking about being efficient or quick here, but that does not mean to create spaghetti code. Make sure you use time before you implement a new system to plan ahead on how you're going to create the code system so that it's easy to continue working on and change in the future. And again, this comes down to releasing your game. It's going to be very, very hard for you to release a game if you make these unexpandable systems. So you should definitely prioritize that. Now, as I promised, when are we actually going to do these small tweaks and bug fixes? How to wrap up the session? And that is, if you completed the entire system you worked on that session or for that session, then you can start to polish and fix the bugs with the time you have remaining. So for example, if you set the timer on a phone to 1.5 hours and you finish the entire system in 1 hour and 50 minutes, then yes, obviously use that last 15 minutes to polish the system you just implemented or fix some bugs about it. If you did not finish the system, then I recommend you write down exactly where you left off and how you're going to resume. And this is actually really, really important, because the next time you are going to go into your project and you just left off in the middle of implementing a system, and if you try to play the game now, it doesn't even work because you were in the middle of a big change, then it's really important that you wrote a note of where you left off. Don't neglect this when you actually need it. It's really important. And again, if you completed the thing that you were going to do for the session, make sure you track your progress using a to-do list or Trello board. Don't use that much time on it, but it is really motivating and really encouraging to have a to-do list. And it's also going to make working a lot more fun, because at the end of the session, you know that you're going to get that little dopamine when you change your Trello card, for example, from to do to done. Now you can also do these smaller tweaks and changes when you are, for example, tired, which can be late evenings, or if you had bad sleep, etc. Then it's really good to have a batch of just small, easy things that you can work on, like the UIs and the small tweaks and bug fixes that are really easy to do. Like, those are really good if you have low energy or if you're tired. Then you can just crank those out. They should be really easy to do. But if you have the mental energy and you are going to sit down and have a productive 1.5 hours, then you definitely shouldn't do these tasks now. Prioritize them for when you're tired or they're essential. If you want to have a good work session, just use it effectively to do something hard. Save the easy tasks for later. Now, if you want to learn more about this topic and you are a part-time solo indie game developer which want to maximize your productivity, then click the link in the description. Thank you for watching.